Dear friends, I have invited my friend John Salunga to talk with us a little bit about the Mitote that's coming up on the 26th of February 2022. I hope you enjoy. John has experienced the Mitote with me over the years many times, and so I think that he will have some interesting things to share with you about what the experience is. Welcome, John.
Hi, how's it going there, Dove?
It's going really, really well. And let's see, I'm actually kind of excited to talk with you because of the Mitote Experience that we're going to be doing very, very soon. This month, I believe, on the 26th, of February. And I wanted to have a little conversation with you about it.
All right.
Because over the years, you have experienced the Mitote experience with me personally. So you kind of know what it's about and everything. And I just wanted you to share your experiences, but first let me kind of like recap just for a sec about what a Mitote is. Okay, what it is, of course, is a ritual experience in which we dive into non-ordinary reality, and that experience itself is analogous to the same kind of experience that people have under plant medicines. And so they get the same kinds of insights and visionary experiences and such, but it's all done just through the ritual guidance, and the experience is induced by stepping into the dream state and then into the waking state and the dream state, so that those levels of consciousness begin to blend to the point where we realize that we are dreaming all of the time, that we get to experience a stepping into the dream space. And it's in that experience that certain kinds of insights come through, and understandings of our own soul and our identity begin to sort of reveal itself. So it's kind of it's an extraordinary journey. It's like a shamanic journey that is done through ritual, and usually it's done through an all-night ritual. But what makes this Mitote experience different is that we don't use i.e. chemicals or plant medicines to induce those states. Okay, so that's it in kind of in a nutshell, but we're going to be talking a bit more about it, and more is going to come through. But I wanted to you to kind of share some of your impressions and experiences with this process.
Yeah, I think remembering back to when we offered the Mitotes here in the San Diego area in the desert, right? I'm remembering really the ceremonial aspects of it in terms of opening the Mitote with like the fire and calling in the different directions. I'm remembering kind of the creativity of the different. I mean, without giving it too much away, right? Just the creativity of the different type of processes that we were invited in throughout the night. And just one of my takeaways is being able to know that during the nighttime, there's kind of a type of work to do during the nighttime. That's more than just the 9 to 5 schedule that we might, or some of us that were kind of accustomed to that. So there's this element around being invited into the space of the evening and the night and the dream space, and that's its own sort of potent like place to do work and to show up
Yeah,
and to form a
yeah.
relationship to that. So I think the Mitote kind of experience was sort of this invitation into those
hmm
into that space. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because as you talk, it reminds me of more about what it was like then. Because I was essentially the guide, the Mitote master there, and it was a powerful creative experience, facilitating these circumstances, guiding the group into situations that were designed to like trigger certain states. You see, to awaken certain aspects of the consciousness of each individual, kind of in their own way, uh, that allowed them to kind of see and interface with themselves in a way that they do not ordinarily have the opportunity to do. You see, so it was like the whole crafting of the experience that was designed to trigger and initiate like awarenesses. And you mentioned the creative part, and that was really the fun part for me, was that um, it was like doing shamanic theater. It's like we were actually doing shamanic theater, and in this process, uh, we've got to facilitate these different environments. So we would go from one environment and deal in that to another, and to another, and to another. So there was this sense of this progression, this progression that we were moving to a particular place, in one's awareness that one rarely gets to, experience that. And it was really quite extraordinary, but it's like the impact of the Mitote experience, and I wanted to get your take on this too, goes far beyond the simple time space in which the ritual portion occurs. You see, and I wonder if you had any impressions about that at all.
I'm feeling like different times when I might remember just the waking state and then also the dream state after the overnight ritual and the overnight ceremony. There's kind of more of a sensitivity to that. I think now, looking back at it, even just right now talking with you, I feel like one of the, I don't know, sort of messages or the bit of wisdom is um, like being able to have a different kind of awareness or consciousness around time. So that's sort of like maybe somewhat of an enduring understanding. So yeah, there's sort of I work as a teacher, so there's like the rhythm of my schedule and how that looks like during the school year, and how that sort of gets configured, and kind of feeling into like how dominant that feels, but also knowing there's a different sensibility around time that can be accessed and that exists. So I feel like that's been one of the things that I've been able to not just not just think about, but actually experience going through
Yeah.
the Mitote ceremony. You get like an experiential quality, and I think remembering in the desert, like it's really immersive. Like the sound, the feeling, the wind, the smell, the ritual, like all of that, and being able to
Yeah.
your body and your
Yeah.
mind and your senses really kind of get
Hmm.
tuned in to that.
Yeah. Because in a sense, it's like you're diving into like a different world at that point, and it's like when you are immersed in it, you can sense that the rules change.
Yes.
It's like the regular understanding of the way that our life works gets disrupted, and it's like a whole different set of rules kind of come in. It's like these spiritual uh, rules that adhere to the soul's reality. You see, so you find yourself going backward and forward, and the whole sense of time begins to kind of converge, converge, or even sort of collapse into together into a more of a now space. And it's like when that happens, one begins to be aware that the nature of the dream and the nature of being awake uh, begins to converge, or you gain this understanding that there isn't actually a difference.
Mm-hmm.
You see, and then one of the things that people experience, when we do the Mitote, and we might do it all night, and then we would emerge the next morning, we would be kind of collectively in a state of a kind of a waking, lucid dreaming state, so that we would be awake, but have this awareness, this acute kind of understanding that we are in fact dreaming too. And it's really quite an extraordinary, wonderful place to be guided to. This understanding that you're awake and you're dreaming at the same time. It becomes clear how all of this is a dream, is an agreed upon consensus reality in which we've essentially synchronized, the terms and the symbols and the archetypes and the rules of our dream together, and then we call that regular reality. You see, and it's one of those things that people, it's like mystics and mystical type individuals have always kind of speculated about. They've always kind of, there's always been some chatter about that sort of thing. But to have an experience that kind of shows it to you.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That it becomes a reality that you've internalized and that you see. You simply get the truth about the dream nature, the sense of collective consensus in which we've all matched our dreams together, and then we call that reality. But after the Mitote, it was one of those amazing kinds of experiences where this has been my experience with it. And I'm wondering if you might relate to this at all. It's like at the end of it, you can kind of see where the line is, where you get the sense of consensus regular reality, but you kind of see beyond that. And you can see the space where the consensus is being knitted together.
Mm-hmm.
You see, where we buy into the agreement. You see, we buy into the matching sense of reality so that we could all kind of operate within it. So it's an experience that kind of ushers us into a particular awareness that transcends the ordinary and accepted, you know, reality or the understanding of how things are and they work. In other words, you see far beyond that. It's like you see much, much further beyond the ordinary, and as I like to say, into the extraordinary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm remembering one time, I don't know if you recall this, I think we were kind of gathering into the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we heard like I don't know, maybe a helicopter or a plane, kind of in the distance, and we all had sort of this, just sort of, I think, shared kind of understand, like, okay, there's that part of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of consensus reality, sort of kicking in, into what we
Yeah.
just had as this ritual and the ceremony for the evening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think in addition to what was the creative theater around it, yeah, this kind of way. I mean, to me, it's sort of like the Mitote is a time, whether or not that's what I knew when I was joining, is when the invitation is to kind of form a different relationship to time,
Mm-hmm.
and to kind of be willing to almost like reset and give myself this
Yeah.
experiential reset to have a different relationship to time and my own sort
Yeah.
of identity or ability to be my agency in that. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's like an important aspect of it. And when we talk about, okay, well, the benefits, it's a
yeah,
very reasonable question to ask. Well, okay, well, why do this?
hmm
Why engage in something like this? What it does is, and as you say, facilitate a kind of a reset. It induces a certain kind of renewal, a rebirth. In the sense, it's like ritually, you're going into the evening, the dark. You're guided by a fire that's constantly burning. So we set up a fire and everything, and so that's kind of like a focal point. But it allows us to illuminate the darkness. You see, it's like we go into a kind of a rebirthing drama, but we do it with our eyes open. You see, and with a certain awareness about it, and that something about that rebirth. The diving into the underworld. The
yeah,
archetypal death and rebirth kind of experience. Allows one to emerge with a freshness, like a freshness and a clarity, and it's as if you begin to see with new eyes, and you see with new eyes, and it's very, very striking. When you first emerge out of it, because you see it, because it's so clear. And then what typically happens is that you after the Mitote, and this is quite interesting. I'm going to, I wonder if you have this experience too. After the Mitote, you can feel the regular reality, the consensus start to kind of creep back in, a little bit, and you can sort of feel where you are psychologically and through and through your even the physiology of your brain begins to buy into the collective. It begins to sort of buy into the regular reality again. And then you have that experience and you think, oh, okay, all right, we've sort of come down a little bit. We're back to normal. But one of the things that happens with the Mitote that kind of makes it magical, okay, is that it may be a few days later or a week later or even 2 weeks later, you have an experience that utterly shifts you. It sort of strikes you and sort of shifts you, and then you get this flash of realization that you're still in the Mitote. It's like the actual reality of the Mitote goes days and perhaps even weeks beyond, the actual time space of the ritual portion. That you're still in this challenge to an exploration of a dream space. You're still sort of dealing with the dream-like reality in ordinary living. So in a sense, it's like it shifts and it changes you on some very rather profound levels that it may take a week or so to fully appreciate the magnitude, appreciate the impact of how you've been, initiated, transformed and initiated. But that's been my experience with it over the years.
Yeah, the phrase that's coming to mind is like the Mitote and the experience of it as that ritual is sort of this, like, it's like a healthier disruption, a healthy disruption, is like a kind of a strategic unplugging of sorts, and
Yes.
and then that day after, how the couple of days after, it's sort of like the integration time,
Yeah.
or the invitation to integrate and to kind of see the self here, and sort of the autonomous space that maybe has been created a little bit more, forming a relationship to all the everyday stuff that we also have to engage in.
Yeah. It's a restructuring. It's a restructuring, and it takes and sometimes it's so subtle that we don't immediately appreciate the depth and the magnitude and the reality of the restructuring that has actually gone on, because it's like, and I know you've had this experience too, of having done several Mitotes with me, is that at the end of it, the next morning, at the completion of it, just the next day, and then you think about, well, what was that like that night? And then you go, oh my God. It's like so much went on.
Yeah.
So much went on that it was an experience that was so crammed and rich with the power of an extraordinary journey, but like compressed within a period of time.
Concentrated, yeah. And
yeah,
cumulative.
Exactly. Exactly. And then you think about it, wait a minute, that was just one night, but why do I feel like I aged 10 years?
Yeah. So it's making me think now, right? Like when we might have a dream, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
it seems sort of significant to try to like parse out the threads of it. And maybe it was just like one episode of the dream that you sort of remember. So the
Yeah.
Mitote is like a series of those,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
cumulatively and strategically, kind of, yeah, through the guide,
Yeah.
for us to kind of, yeah, like once again, I guess the word I'm using tonight is integrate, you know, and to
Mm-hmm.
sort of explore the lesson or the teaching that's for me, or the healing or whatever the
Yeah.
gift is. Um, mhm.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. It's like that. There's so much that happens, and I think you hit the nail on the head just a little bit earlier when you talked about realizing how much work goes on in the evening time, in the dark, or in the
Yes.
underworld. It's like when the lights go down, it's like almost as if for the whole for the whole soul, it's showtime.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It becomes like, oh, good, now we have this opportunity to do uh, the amazing and take this extraordinary journey, you see. And and it's, and it's interesting. Once again, it's like it's the same thing that the plant medicines tend to do, or offer the possibility
Hmm.
of doing. But when you realize that the plant medicines, i.e. the chemical agents and such, aren't necessary in order to have the same kind of experience, or what they call a theogenic
Hmm.
uh, visionary experience. There's something about that. There's something about that actually frees and liberates you, because it's not about cultivating an attachment to a substance. You see, and so the idea here is that to be able to explore these realms is something that is actually, it's natural to you. It's something that you're supposed to be able to do. Okay, that I would describe it as that it is your birthright to know these realms. It is your birthright to be able to engage with yourself, with your soul, at that level, with that intensity, with and to be able to do that kind of profound, deep, inner shamanic kind of work. You see, you're supposed to be able to do this. It should be a natural thing. You see, and what the Mitote experience does is that it introduces one to the possibility. You see, there's a you it demystifies the journey into the mystical, if that makes sense. It makes it accessible in a particular way, and it's interesting because it's like you'll experience things, you'll step into states of consciousness and such. But I think that the benefit of this particular method, to have the experience so carefully guided in this way, is that you don't it frees you from having to point to a plant medicine or a substance as the trigger, the facilitator of that which initiates it. It's like you got there on your own. in a sense. It's like it somehow makes it more real, and 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 the implication is that regular reality, you know, has the capacity to offer, you know, the extraordinary, you know, the fantastic, or that which is utterly astonishing, if you know how to engage it just right. You see, there's some interesting implications and possibilities around this particular process.
I like what you said.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like what you said about that. You know, this is kind of a capacity that's in our birthright to experience, right? And particularly around the invitation towards the darkness. And you know, I mean, if the default idea would be, okay, the dark is bad, or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we should be scared of dark. So that whole part of life has already been kind of predefined. And
yeah.
sort of and almost cut off, right? Cut off from what actually is there. Um,
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like you know, especially in Western world, North America is sort of like the dream state has been sort of cordoned off
mhm.
in a particular kind of way, but and that very rarely are the demarcations shifted, so that the dream space is allowed to bleed into and integrate with the waking states. You see, and you know, and as I would say, thus making your ordinary life magical and dreamlike.
Mhm.
So imagine that. And that somehow that's something that you're supposed to be able to do. This is something that one should have access to, which is, you know, which is why I am so excited about you know, engaging in the, you know, in the Mitote process, and it's you know, one of the interesting things that one gets out of this experience is that you begin to see, it's like suddenly you become aware of how you step into the delight of a Mitote in real and ordinary life, just as a matter of course, and that it allows you to be able to sort of say yes and ride with and meet and engage, you know, the wonder and the magic and the actualization of the dream in your regular living. You see, this is what I mean by this introduction of the wonder and the astonishment in your regular experience. You see, that your life itself begins to manifest itself as a fantastic dream. That's where it all leads. You see, and so it's, you know, so the sense of the journey, the sense of the wonder of the journey, becomes expanded, you know, and integrated into one's regular. regular life and regular experience.
I wanted to ask the what would be, for people that would be interested in, your next offering. Like, what is it that uh, what should they do as if they're
Oh
interested in
yeah,
your next
yeah,
offering?
yeah, yeah. Well, this offering that I'm offering now this month is going to take place on the 26th of February.
Mhm.
Uh, I want to make it more of a regular thing. So I want to create more Mitote experiences. And of course, the thing is that each one will be different. Each one is a whole different journey. And, the so that, as when you've experienced it, there are all of these embedded surprises that
Yes.
occur, okay, in the Mitote experience, and that's what kind of triggers the magic of it. And so I want to take more people on these kinds of journeys, and because of having worked with the Zoom platform,
Mhm.
I've worked out ways of facilitating the same kind of experience that one would have, say, in the desert, that would take all night, into the next morning, to be able to facilitate the same kind of experience uh, on this Zoom, platform online, but do it within a 4-hour period. You see, so it's condensed into like a 4-hour journey in which I utilize remote energetic work, ritual visualization, guided imagery, remote energetic work, um, and integrated and kind of crafted together to kind of facilitate this experience, this experiential journey. And I'll be about 5 days prior, I'll be putting out a video that's going to be an instructional video to sort of teach and show people how to prepare, what to bring, what to have ready, and how to prepare, and a little bit about what to expect in the experience. So I'm going to be giving that information prior to this Mitote experience. So it's going to be quite amazing. It's going to be quite wonderful, and the reason why we're having this conversation is to really kind of give a sense of what it's about. The magnitude, the depth, the nature of what people might expect from it. So.
Yeah, and, what I like from what I'm hearing from you, what you're sharing is, it seems like there's going to be like multiple opportunities to be able to join the Mitote ceremony. And I'm just remembering back on during our times, we
Mhm.
were able to go maybe the early part of spring or maybe sometime into the fall.
Yes.
So there was kind of working with the
Yeah.
seasons here.
Hmm.
Whereas now there'll be more opportunities to be able to offer it and for people to tune in and have that cumulative effect.
Exactly, exactly. It's like we've got this extraordinary opportunity to really utilize and innovate with the technology to create something that is truly like a cutting edge and kind of a game changer in terms of how shamanism, how spirituality is to be engaged. You see, there's an opportunity for much more potential for the kinds of experiences that would have been more limited because we would be limited by the geography and by
Yeah.
the particular season, and gathering of massive amounts of equipment and stuff
Resources.
in order and resources to kind of make it occur. So we're being ushered into a different era, much more refined and concentrated, and but with the opportunity to experience these same levels of transformation and encounters with you see the ritual, the growth and the levels of journeying, and so it's going to represent kind of the next step, is what I'm saying. It's like the next evolution of how shamanism, if you will, spirituality, spiritual teaching and such is to be done. So to me that's very, very exciting.
Yeah, you're always so good at keeping that innovation and the tinkering with, how can it look like, and let's try this. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's interesting because it's like, even in the mitotes that we were doing in the desert, I've had individuals that, that were a little bit skeptical. They would say, well, how can you recreate the same kind of experiences that people have with, with the ayahuasca or the mescaline or any other, or psilocybin or any of the entheogens, and these are people that have had much experience with that, as I've had experience with that as well. And then they would go through the mitote, and I've had people sort of pull me aside and say, this was comparable, to that same profundity and intensity of those experiences, so there was quite a testament, an endorsement, people who've been able to kind of compare the two, and so again, this is why I'm so keen on being able to offer it, and I want to thank you for chatting with me about it, because
sure.
this helps other people understand like where we're going and what we're doing with it, and makes it clear so that folks can choose, and be informed about the kind of experience and growth choices that are possible and available. So I thank you again.
All right, look forward to whatever you're going to post to share with us all, like what the next steps will be.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, thank you, John.
Namaste.
All right, take care, everybody.